Raise your hand if you like manipulation, scheming, and treachery wrapped up in your dramas. The new Netflix series Snakes and Ladders has all of that, plus some quirky humor as well, but does it deliver effectively? In a renowned school in Mexico, a teacher becomes involved in a dispute between two students. What appears to be just another incident will change Dora's entire life in a story about ambition, power, and glory. We've seen a lot of this story format before, where the protagonist has desires for some life improvement, but gets mixed up in circumstances that make life way more twisty and complicated than they had expected. Or liked. And through these complexities, challenges are piled on, leaving everyone to wonder if it was even worth it in the first place. Now here we follow Dora, a single mom who has been at this prestigious school for many years, first as a teacher, now as a prefect, and she has her eye on becoming the new headmistress. This drama pulls in all of the familiar vibes of modern-day parental politics when it comes to elementary education and an adult's need to create drama within an environment that should only have the drama of how the young girls and boys interact. Instead, we watch scheming, campaigning, even activities that could lead to blackmail, changing the setting of this school full of innocent kids into the battleground for wayward adults who are consumed with their pursuit of power. The series is 8 episodes, with the first episode being the longest at around 45 minutes, and the rest sticking to about 30 minutes. Storytelling is fairly straightforward and follows the path of one bad decision leading to more, and then an eventual snowball effect of terrible outcomes. And while the majority of these aren't overly tragic, there are a couple that do set off larger ripples than others. Now the cast, it's relatively large, as we are introduced to not only Dora's family, but several families and staff within the school. And despite all of the people, the character development, it's pretty solid, giving us a good grasp on each of them and informing us on whether or not they're worth rooting for. And what I discovered is that there are actually very few in this show that I liked. And that's not to say that many didn't have charming elements or moments that I enjoyed their inclusion within the story, but on the whole, I'd probably only be willing to hang out with one or two of them if they were real people. I mean, even Dora, our protagonist, she is so focused on her ambitions that she's blinded by the poor decisions that she ends up making. And she gets wrapped up with tunnel vision, and that then leads to some entertaining, even stressful scenarios. Cecilia Suarez as Dora builds out a persona who's unassuming and mousy, just brimming with unconfidence and indecisiveness, but one who quickly shifts to morph into a devious and conniving anti-hero, honed in on her goal of headmistress. I mean, she's not without some charisma, but she's also not somebody that you'd want to tussle with. While she'll be all smiles to your face, in her mind, she's plotting something that could potentially ruin you. Another character who stood out to me was Olmo, who's played by Juan Pablo Medina. Now first, this dude is on point with his fashion. His glasses always match the orb that's on his tall cane, and they're typically complementary to whatever color he's predominantly wearing. Now the vast array that he owns, I thought it was impressive and it's lively. But I was also drawn to the personality. While he's not necessarily a good guy through and through, he does have some qualities that make him endearing. He's a passionate, protective father, and as a single dad, he makes a huge effort to meet his kids' needs at all times. He also has a lot of compassion, which is a little surprising because he doesn't show that to everybody. Some he's downright rude and mean to, while others he'll coddle and care, providing a shoulder to cry on or an enthusiastic pep talk when it's needed. And he's certainly a quirky character, and just like with Dora, the duo make for a dysfunctionally dynamic pair. Now, even though the series looks to be focused on Dora's pursuit of the headmistress gig, the show really is all about life's contradictions and how people embrace them for their own purposes. There's a very conservative couple who purport to hold family values as a tenet of an upstanding society, and yet they hold some kinky secrets that belie their outward professions. There's also an ultra-right-wing character who has been hiding something that would certainly go against their party's strongly held beliefs. And even Dora, who is the most front and center when it comes to being focused on propriety and rule following, she breaks just about every one of them as she pursues her goals. I mean, I appreciate that these situations aren't static or that they don't go under the radar. The story craftfully calls them out without ever being preachy about the contradictions. It's also great that at times we get to see areas of growth or redemption. I mean, not every character embraces this, but enough do to make the story's end feel uplifting and complete. And it's impressive at how many different social topics the show addresses, even in small ways, showcasing differing and sometimes problematic mindsets and how those can be combated and changed through conversations, even awareness. Now, I think the story does falter a bit because of how many storylines it attempts to follow within the show. but each of them do come around to get a resolution at some point or another. So while a couple may seem more like distractions, they do provide some key story moments at the right time, despite not having a large focus on that particular arc. Now, if you're a fan of the Max series The Peacemaker, especially its opening intro, this show is doing something similar, but with a less catchy song behind it, and at least for me. The choreography is awesome, and the first time we see it, the timing is strange and awkward, which totally works given the funky nature of the show intro. And I love the creativity they employed, even if it does borrow from Peacemaker. Now, I'm not sure if this is just a limited series or if more seasons are planned, but the story does wrap up in a spot that provides a good conclusion, and it wouldn't feel odd if the show didn't continue. There's also a little bit of space to continue if the demand was there. And I'm curious about where the story would go, though, but I wouldn't mind revisiting with some of the characters, just thanks to their quirks and their contradictions. So overall, Snakes and Ladders is a strange show, using the pursuit of power to address real societal issues through comedy and drama. While the cast of characters isn't always endearing, the shenanigans and situations they get themselves caught up in do provide an engaging watch. The comedy's off-kilter, and the character growth is enjoyable, and despite having several different storylines with varying degrees of attention provided, the show as a whole keeps itself centered and focused on where it wants to go, bringing chaos and dysfunction along the way. There is a bunch of sex and nudity, a lot of profanity, and then some violence. I give Snakes and Ladders 3.5 out of 5 couches. So have you watched any quirky dramas lately that just featured some strange characters? I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.